Greetings, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Sravan, Arun, Mukund, and Torun to the show today. Welcome, guys.
Thanks,
Hey,
Ben. Happy to
And
be on.
yeah,
happy
great
to
to have
be
you
on.
guys here. This will set the record for the number of co-founders on my podcast. So this is great. And let's kick this off. And maybe Sravan, then we'll go around the circle here. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I have a decade plus of experience on building products and scaling them. More recent one, I co-founded another AI company in my previous avatar. That's an AI health tech firm where I had to set up the entire data center by myself in regarding in compliance with HIPAA and ISO and all other compliance there. And I have a couple of patents on cloud computing and distributed systems on building products to scale and, making sure that they won't crash anytime. So that's me, Shravan. Yeah.
Arun?
Yeah, hi. So more recently, I built AngelList India, the tech platform for AngelList in India from scratch. Prior to that, I've worked with this company called Blipper, where we built augmented reality and stuff like that. Those are my jobs per se. My startup journey, I've done a few startups with the people in the team right now. So we built like a food app, we built an e-commerce app, we built augmented reality apps and whatnot. Right. So those are things I mostly build the product. I do the design, full stack through and through. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Mukund?
Yeah, I'm mostly been a full stack guy. Worked at different places, and most of the places I worked at, it was the same team. So our last startup, it was called Ucraft, and then we bit it all. Torun was handling the operations. I was mostly into DevOps and backend stuff, and then Arun and Sravan, they were sometimes into marketing, programming, everything. So that's one of the things we did. And then before that, the app Arun mentioned, Cutty, we've done it together again. So that's one of the things. And apart from that, I've mostly been in fintech. Whereas, yeah, that's my journey.
Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks. I guess that leads me, Ben. And in addition to, I guess, having the most number of founders, you probably have the biggest time difference here. It's 1:30 a.m. over here. So hopefully we get to keep our answers straight. But, my background is actually not in technology. I was an investment banker in New York for about 30 years, doing mergers and acquisitions with Credit Suisse, and then moved back to India, which is where I grew up and did my high school in 2012 and started my entrepreneurial journey with traditional businesses, real estate, automotive, etc. And then in our last startup is when I got together with Arun, Sravan, Mukund. We built a full-scale e-commerce marketplace for interior materials. And when we transitioned out of that, we sat down together and said, what do we do next? And we made a concerted effort to do something that was deep tech, focused on the cloud. And then we'll get more into that shortly. But, this has made me learn technology. And I think the last time I had such a challenge understanding things was when I took Hindi and Kannada in high school, which are local languages, which we had to study over here.
Yeah, I love that. I love that mix. You throw an investment banker in the mix of technical background. So yeah, I love that. Well, appreciate the background. So let's talk Toystack, and maybe we'll get to the name of Toystack later. But Arun, tell us what products and or services does Toystack offer?
So Toystack, just to simplify what it does, is basically an abstraction layer over a cloud. So what we kind of do is we simplify the journey of an app from code on your computer to how does it reach the cloud, right? So essentially it behaves like a cloud. So it offers compute, network, storage. That's just another way to say that we help deploy applications. And that's kind of the core. The core of Toystack is basically it's a deployment tool. So you bring it code and it'll deploy it in a way that simplifies everything about the cloud, right? That's kind of what it is. And so those are the kind of, I'd say, the bare minimum features of Toystack, and I can tell you a little more about what else it does, I guess.
And when we talk app, are we talking just SaaS application, go to a URL and or app store apps to define that a little bit more?
Sorry. So I think web apps or any app that needs to live on a server is the kind of app that I'm talking about.
Okay, perfect. And so with this helping the deployment of these apps, so who are you after? Like who is your ideal customer profile then?
Right. So we built Toystack to basically solve our own problem of going from 0 to 1 in terms of the cloud journey in all the startups we've done in the past. So we kind of looked at, okay, the problem that exists is for people who are trying to build a new product, people who have an existing product and want to focus on the product and not on the DevOps angle. So this would be, I'd say, hobbyists, freelance devs, young startups, I'd say even small to medium sized startups, teams maybe that do not have more than 50 engineers, or internal teams of larger enterprises that again have no DevOps expertise within them, would be a great profile.
Okay. Yeah, because we
You know,
know. Yeah. No, go ahead, because I think.
sorry to jump in bed, but when we started this, is one of the things that we saw was there was a lot of time being spent on really taking your code to the cloud. And I asked ChatGPT what was one of the most difficult issues facing developers. And, deployment to the cloud was one of the first things that came up. A lot of time is spent by developers that don't have a DevOps team, just figuring out how to configure the servers, setting up those CI/CD pipelines, security, which is a big issue, load balancers, auto scaling. And with this tool, it's almost similar to I don't know if you have like food ordering apps, Uber getting a taxi. This is something where, at a snap of fingers, a couple of clicks, you can literally take your application to the cloud so it's accessible to the world.
Yeah, and that's interesting because when we think about, say, a SaaS P&L and the cost of revenue or cost of goods sold, and we have DevOps up there as part of our gross profit. And right, I work with a lot of early stage SaaS where maybe the engineering team is also doing the DevOps or internal IT, and maybe that's not quite their skill set, but they still need to deploy their application. And as SaaS
Right.
companies get bigger, then they have DevOps engineers, and then that sits up in COGS. So it seems like potentially some cost savings efficiency here, that you can either deploy professionally or potentially just maybe not need those DevOps engineers. Is that sound about right?
So I'll answer that. So basically, the reason why we kind of built Toystack out is we wanted to build out a system that's extremely mature, and you could get access to that system with having to do very little work, right? So what we did was, closest analogy is a co-working space. So what we did was we built out this massive DevOps platform on Kubernetes, fully scalable, has all the bells and whistles, has security logging, monitoring alerts, everything out of the box. And we kind of rent this massive system out to other startups. So what they do is, if they have an app that they want to deploy, they simply connect it to Toystack and they get the benefit of, say, 2 years of DevOps work. Right? Because we do a bit of warehousing, like a co-working space, we have this massive cluster that everybody's sharing. The cost of actual deployment is a lot lower than if you had to do it yourself, right? That's one. Two is, obviously, since the effort of setting up this pipeline is no longer there, you don't have to pay a DevOps engineer to kind of build this entire system out again. So you again save on time and effort and salaries, I guess. And obviously the maintenance is going to be next to nothing because everything's maintained by us. So we'll be the ones watching all the services and keeping them up. The security is completely our headache. And so the product company who's a client can fully focus on the product and rather than try and do this themselves.
Yeah, appreciate
Yeah.
that
Ben, I'll add a couple of other USPs in that we've definitely seen companies see faster product builds by using this tool. And what I mean by that is when somebody in the business asks for a new feature on the UI UX or on the back end, the developer has developed that particular aspect of the application, but they're waiting for the DevOps team to really integrate it and deploy it so other people, or either testers or the business people, can see it. With Toystack, the developer doesn't have to wait for the DevOps team to actually deploy it, right? He can just connect it to Toystack, it's deployed, the business guys see it. It enables much faster product builds. The other very cool thing about Toystack is, let's say that work is done over the weekend or maybe on a Friday morning, the DevOps team deploys it at maybe 6 p.m. on Friday, everybody's left for the weekend. That dev environment is sitting on the cloud, running up dollars, higher cost, et cetera, et cetera. With Toystack, you can nobody's using it, shut it down over the weekend, shut it down in the evenings, save a ton of money. Monday, 3 p.m., somebody wants to see it, couple of clicks, it's deployed, people get to see it. So it's faster product builds and, saving cloud costs as well.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And now you mentioned kind of your ideal customer profile, startups, freelancers up to SMB, and maybe no DevOps engineers. Now, what if you get into larger, do you get into larger orgs that may have some DevOps engineers, or by then do those guys say, hey, we've got it, don't need you, or do you still see some traction there?
Yeah, I think that's the origin of the word Toystack. So we originally thought that people would want to do production themselves, and the dev can be something that gets offloaded to Toystack. That's why the word Toystack. But later, everybody said, "Why can't you do production?" So we had to like flip and build a proper system. But yeah, we definitely want to get to the point of handling enterprise DevOps, large company DevOps, but then it is not a problem that we can solve as on today. It's a problem that requires quite a bit of maturity in terms of building out different features, adding more security features. We need to be able to handle the kind of scale, the kind of complexity of an enterprise, right? And it's not that we do not know how to do it as on today. We've done it in our past experiences. We've worked in companies where we've done it before, but then uh, it's a different kettle of fish to simplify that complexity, like what we're trying to achieve with Toystack. So we can't go to an enterprise and say, hey, we're going to be cheaper, faster, simpler today, right? So it's a journey. So we're going to start with freelance and kind of build a community around it, then slowly scale up the ladder to SMBs and then finally hit the enterprise.
Okay, yeah, makes a ton of sense. So going after your
And
initial ICP first, and then think about scaling up market. Yep.
right. Yep. Ben, an interesting aspect that came out of the enterprise and Toystack name discussion was, one of the people we were talking to who deals with enterprise sales told us, hey, you better change that name because, people may not trust you. It'll be hard to sell to enterprise with the name Toystack. And I think the first thing that came to our mind is if we're buying our phones from Apple and not fruits from there, then, let's give it a chance.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So we're
Yes.
sticking with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, we know in the tech world and SaaS world, a lot of different names, sometimes weird
Yeah.
names, but yeah, appreciate that insight. So let's talk some facts and figures, Tarun. What year did you found Toystack?
Where I would say in our journey, we're not even a year old. It was in the second half of 2023 that we came together. It took us some time to kind of transition off from the previous startup. We were doing different things, looking at different things. Arun, Sravan, and Mukund were working hard on the POC, working through the MVP. But I would say we really went to market with something that was tangible in the early part of this year. So I would say, Feb, March. And, we have in 4 months and we focused on product-led growth rather than, the sales cycle of calling different startups and saying, hey, why don't you try a product? We did try that, but we're fortunate to meet somebody who said, you've got a self-serve product, open it up there, use some good digital marketing, and touch wood, we're at about, I'd say close to 7,000 users where we have at least one user in more than 100 countries. We've had more than 15,000 successful deployments. And, we have access. People have trusted us with access to more than 100,000 repositories. So in 5-6 months, we've had some incredible traction.
Yeah, that's some great stats so early on. And then where are you guys located?
We're in Bangalore, India, which is, I guess people refer to as the Silicon Valley of India. But we've seen startups across all the big cities. India is I guess a booming startup culture now, and the government's very focused on helping startups and all about innovation.
That's great. Yeah, I interview a lot of founders from India. So located in Bangalore, India. And what's your current team size?
Arun, you want to?
So we've got mostly engineers, except Torun, including us. And we've got one digital marketing guy. The entire team's less than 10 people. I'd say about 8.
Okay, about 8 staff, mostly engineers. And then Torun, you mentioned, great traction so far, 7,000 users in 100 countries, 15,000 successful deployments. And so are you guys revenue generating at this point or pre-revenue?
Yeah. So Ben, is we didn't expect this kind of traction so far. So, we're pretty excited about it. So one of the first things we did very quickly was to say, let's start the revenue journey because we've been able to validate the product. People were loving it. A lot of our users were concerned that, hey, it's free. This is not going to last forever. Do you have a paid plan? Do you have something that will be consistent? I'd like to move my production to Toystack. So we started working on a payment gateway and plans, and writing that logic was quite complex. And because the engineering team was building out the product, addressing the issues that with this fast growth, so it took us a bit of time to write that payment logic, which we finally done, and it's been about a week old. So we're slowly starting to see revenue, but I think we're going to see a lot of friction in that conversion. So our revenue right now is quite small. We have I would say it's in the tune of maybe, I don't know, $1,000 a month right now, but it's a week into the payment gateway.
Mhm.
So I think our goal and our focus is maybe in 6 to 9 months to have at least $100,000 in ARR, maybe $10,000 in MRR, if you may.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, early traction, maybe different story. Yeah, now trying to convert all those users over to the payment
Yeah.
plan, and yeah, just putting payment logic into apps, is hard enough, as you said. So that's great. So let's talk go-to-market motion. And Torun, you mentioned a little bit before product-led growth, maybe try that outbound, but really, so you're saying right now it is a self-service model. Come to your website, sign up, and then away they go.
Yep. Yep. So Ben, I think the four of us sat down and thought pretty hard about this, because, we're at a fork in a journey where we could do PLG, but the revenue, I guess growth will be a lot slower because you have people coming in, paying you that $5, $20, $50. The alternative is to, hire some expensive sales guys, fly around the world, meet clients, spend a lot of time on the need of large enterprises. And there could be a scenario where we sign up a large enterprise and then just lose our 10 people addressing that issue. So we've been fortunate to talk to a few VCs, a lot of them in Silicon Valley and the US, where they've said, PLG, right? You guys have some smart, brilliant engineers, focus on the product, right? Get as many users as you can from all over the world. They love your product. Let your team just focus on the product, build the Rolls Royce of deployment tools. So I think that's going to be our focus for the next 2 years, which is product-led growth. We're looking at digital ads, paid advertising, Google, Meta. We're looking at influencers across YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're looking at doing webinars, events, things along the lines that enable product-led growth rather than being stuck up, with large conferences and, one or two big clients.
Okay,
Because just given the size of the team.
Yeah, that makes sense. So PLG self-service, but then yeah, you got to get people to your site. So driving that through digital ads, influencers, webinars, events. So yeah, appreciate that insight. So let's talk capital, fundraising, and how much capital have you raised to date?
Yeah. So, we've raised about $300,000 and we were fairly disciplined in raising that capital. We said, we want to use that capital to add more engineers to the team, spend a bit on disciplined advertising per se. It's so easy to just spend money on advertising. And I think this would take us out a good 6 to 8 months. And then we probably look to our seed, which would then be, a much larger chunk of money.
Okay, so and I saw maybe about 325 raised. So say pre-seed round, add some more engineers, do some disciplined paid ads. I love that.
Yeah.
6 to 8 months of runway and then a seed round. So what did you guys know that you were going to raise from the beginning, or did you think, hey, we'll bootstrap this and then see if we have to raise? What was your fundraising philosophy?
Yeah. So we bootstrapped for the last year,
Mhm.
and we came to, I guess, a path in the journey. So where, some of us were putting in capital, some of us were not taking salaries. So we said, let's not complicate the ownership and, the dynamic between the four of us. Let's move the ownership and the funding outside the four of us. And once we saw the traction, Ben, we said, okay, now we can actually take money with some conviction and validation that we're taking money with a product that works. And we resisted that till we actually got traction because we wanted to be sure that this was something that was exciting. And then we had the know-hows and the talent to do it. So till we actually got traction, I think we held off. But once we got traction, spoke to mostly friends and family, avoided the institutions. And I think what was amazing was I think people loved the team dynamics and what we'd done, the traction we just achieved in such a short time. And I think almost all the investors in our pre-seed round, I guess I'd call it a friends and family round, know us personally, love what we're doing, and wanted to kind of back us.
Okay. And with for co-founders, any lessons learned in this process, tips and tricks for other teams out there who may be thinking about adding co-founders and just kind of, I don't know, just dealing with the ownership or fundraising or getting the team moving in the same direction?
Yeah. You know, Ben, you've asked the toughest question of the day. I would say anytime you have two people in a room, married, living under the same roof, right? There's fireworks at different times of the day, right? You have four people spending a lot of time together, trying to figure things out. There's definitely fireworks. I think the great thing is I think it's good to allow the fireworks because it allows for us to kind of push each other in a particular direction. The great thing is we all bring different aspects to the table. Though Sravan, Arun, and Mukund are full stack developers, they have different strengths in different niches. Sravan's a bit of a maverick. He understands the architecture, a lot of strength in cybersecurity, and security is very important today as you deploy to the cloud. Mukund's are just genius in infrastructure and just understanding deep tech and how to deploy Kubernetes, Docker, words I don't even comprehend. And Arun just is able to bring everything together and, just make it look and sound great. A lot of front end, UI, UX, pretty stuff. So they bring different aspects to the table, and then I push them in asking questions, which I don't comprehend myself. And sometimes they tell me, dude, what are you saying? And sometimes they say, hey, that's a good idea. So I think it's important at the end of the day, after all the fireworks, to say, okay, we agree to disagree, but let's do this. But to put it to bed and not let it affect you as you start the next day or as you move forward. I don't know anything, Sravan, Arun, Mukund.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
that.
think,
Anything else that you guys want to add on that? Yeah.
yeah, I think like, a few things. I think Torun's really good with, I guess, managing people. That's something that the three of us do not have. And Shravan's really good with sales and just getting out there. He could meet Elon Musk and say, hey, give me your phone number. He's that kind of a guy. So he's unrelenting in terms of connections. And Mukund's just on the background plugging away all the time. And so those are kind of skills that we can kind of fully respect each other's capabilities that way. And we for sure know that we wouldn't be able to achieve the same result even if we tried the same method. So that's something that I guess if you're trying to build a team out, and obviously everybody needs to be equal at the table, I guess. And you shouldn't be looking at, okay, how much is a person working versus how much are they getting and stuff like that. Those discussions should be moved. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the team dynamics. You can see it. So appreciate that insight, and with four co-founders. So, and with this next question, and happy to hear from all of you, your thoughts on this. But at this stage, early stage, just starting to generate revenue, but some nice user traction. Is there a favorite number or metric that you're using to guide the business?
I think Shravan can answer that.
Yeah. So at this point, we are actually planning to double our user growth and in terms of number of deployments by this month end. And apart from this, I think Torun and Arun have really missed to emphasize on one more point that we are actively trying to build is something we are very proud of is community. We have over 500 plus devs and in our Discord right now, where we actively try to respond to each and every one of their query. And we are seeing that Discord community kind of evolve over a period of time with say 10 users right now to 500 plus. It's actually a very proud moment, where everybody are talking to themselves. Some people are answering amongst themselves, and we see that community evolve. So I think we're going to emphasize there. So it's not just about the product. We also care a lot about our community, and we care a lot about our users.
Any other thoughts on that? Any metrics numbers that you like right now to manage the business?
I think,
I think given
yeah,
its
go ahead, Torun.
PLG, Ben, I think for us, we're looking in the next 6 months before the seed round to get it to at least 50,000 users, And of those 50,000, at least 10,000, pretty actively using the platform to deploy, whether it's on trial plans or paid plans. And, at least 1,000 of those people paying us an ARPU of about $10. So, those are the near-term metrics we're looking at. And a lot of the guidance to our marketing team in when we do certain events is to push towards that. That's the goal in 6 months before the seed round.
Yeah. And Toystack's biggest utility is somebody deploying. So that is a golden number for us, number of deployments that happen on the platform. We've consciously made the decision to not give out like a continuous free plan because we wouldn't know what the right signals are. So we've switched to a trial plan that you try for a month and then you move to a paid plan. And so far, it's been good. So far, a lot of people have tried the trial plan and they've really loved the product. And a lot of them are contemplating moving to the paid plans as well. So I think the golden number would be the number of deployments that happen if you had to pick one. But given that we're so early in the journey, we have few moving pieces. Like Sravan was saying, the community is a piece that we just cannot ignore because as with all dev tools, without the community kind of just saying, hey, this is a great product, it just will not move. We could make it $0 at this point and still wouldn't move if people didn't like it. So we have a few things going, but then I think at the end of the day, we'll be watching deployments very closely.
Also, Ben, I would like to add one more thing here. So we have made it a point that all four of us are actively on Discord, trying to answer to any user queries by ourselves rather than having a team. So most of our time is also spent on Discord and engaging with users.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that insight. So nice Discord community and great when they help each other out in there. And then Torun goal 50,000 users and also deployments. Obviously, that's a key operational usage number and
Yeah.
signal. And of course, moving now trial to paid. So appreciate that insight. So guys, really appreciate you sharing your journey experience to date. As we wrap up, what's coming up next for Toystack?
I think Mukund should talk about the product because that's the most exciting things coming out of Toystack. I think you already heard where we want to go. I think Mukund might add color to that.
I'll take that. So we actually are adding support to a lot of interesting frameworks that are new in the market. We have something called Solana. We found it very interesting. We are adding support for that. And then we are also integrating WASP. That's something we found very interesting again. And we are actually using AI to do code reviews. And then to the point where, let's say I make a change in the code and then I deploy it. We use AI to identify if if this piece of code which I've written now, is that causing a spike in the CPU or memory? Is that causing a network latency or could be anything for that matter? So to that extent, we are planning to use AI. Those are the improvements coming. And obviously security. We should be able to handle all the new traffic Sravan, Torun, and Arum are anticipating. So, users go up, the system should be able to handle all of that. That's something we've been focusing on. And then we have this thing called remixes. Remixes, you might have heard it on other platforms also, but then we approached it in a slightly different way. Let's say I have an open source project application that's flying on GitHub. People can actually find open sources and then try them out. But then on Toystack, if you have an open source application, you can actually make it public. And then people can actually search, find your repository. And instead of just finding the dumb code sitting somewhere, you can actually see that code in action. So that way, let's say you find someone else's remix, you can actually, with a single click, fork that code, that project, and then you can have the deployments happening right away. So that's something we've been focusing on.
All right. Yeah. So some exciting stuff coming up for Toystack. So guys, really appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing your experience, some insight. Love the team dynamics. So for the listeners, where should we send them online if they'd like to learn more about Toystack?
I think our website, toystack.ai, it's toystack.ai. I think that from there you can read everything about what Toystack does, and then you can directly jump in to start deploying stuff as well.
All right, appreciate that. So check out toystack.ai to learn more. And to wrap up, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I think we're super happy about being on this podcast. We talk about our product. I mean, I guess like we didn't expect this kind of growth, and kind of honored to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, I really love what you're doing. Thanks for having us on your podcast, sharing our journey with your users, your community, and, happy to be helpful to your community in any way. If there's any DevOps need or any cloud complications they face, we're here at Toystack to be, give back and help in any way.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know with the technical founders, co-founders in the audience, this will definitely grab their attention to make deployments easier. So really appreciate it, guys. I know very late for you guys, so appreciate that time difference. And again, if you'd like to learn more, check out toystack.ai. And again, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ben.
Thank you, Ben.